Hey Peyton, nice to see you again on this beautiful day. And this time on our 100th episode with a quote from one of our conversations. And it's you. It goes like this. Because every second you live, every minute that passes is part of your life. This is it. There is nothing else. Like, this is it. This actual breath right now is your life. Just is your life. So you can take it and act upon it. You can view it through a lens of gratitude. You can also view it through the lens of victimhood. It is your decision and also your responsibility to decide actively how you want to live. And if you think you are able to change it in a certain way, then the magic will happen. You will try it. And then the magic will happen. And the next information appears through your next step you take. So, which is the next step we will take in this conversation, Peyton? What do you think about it?
Great to be back with you, my friend. Yes, this points to something that's always true for us, that right now, everything is here. Everything is enough. Everything is all around us. Our life is this. Our life is right now. And this is an important antidote for me because I'm wired to be very much living in my thoughts, very much living in the past and the future projection that I put over the now that is actually already always here, that is life right now, right here. And this tendency to live in thought is something that is, of course, useful in certain ways, in certain zones, in certain balances. And it is, as been said before, a useful tool, but a terrible master or a terrible prison if we allow it to become a place that we never leave. And the antidote to this waking up, this full radical embrace of reality right now is the foundation of agency and the foundation of flow, connection, creativity, and nourishment in our life, and something that is right here for us to tap into. This applies to accepting what is, to unifying ourselves and bringing us into alignment with the divine nature that is unfolding right now. Whatever good, whatever bad has happened, whatever is right here cannot be any other way. It is right here. It has already arrived. And if it has already arrived and it is the now, it's completely non-negotiable. And so the choice that we find over and over and over is, do we disagree with reality, or do we do our best to bring ourselves into alignment with reality and then proceed from there in full connection, full alignment, and full unity with it, even as everything, including us, is in motion? How do you think about this is it? How do we apply this? How do we see this? How do we remember it when we forget it?
We remember it when we forget it, when we, for example, experiencing pain. Then we wake up to the moment and say, oh, damn it, stepped into the nail. But yeah, now this is it. And then we cannot do nothing but embracing reality and deal with it. We have the option of cursing the nail or cursing whatever we stepped into or bumped our head against, but it won't change the fact that it already happened. Like you said, it's non-negotiable. Whatever happened, happened. And we have to do our best from there on to proceed from there. And we can decide, and we, like you said, we have the agency to tap into this moment, and we have to take the responsibility to act from now on. And therefore, we just might as well choose a way which is in alignment with ourselves, with what we value, with connection to other people, to ourselves, with kindness towards ourselves, and say, hey, it might happen. I was like, Hans guck in die Luft is a German saying for a person who's like only looking into the air and in his thoughts. And I'm sometimes a Hans guck in die Luft.
Me too, even if I cannot pronounce it.
And yeah, we wake up to the moment if we're experiencing pain, for example, but also sometimes we're experiencing something blissful. We are just overcome by this beauty of the sunset because we take a deep breath or a shallow breath or whatever. We connect to our body in a beautiful way. we lose our mind and engage in the state of no mind, there's also a possibility to wake up to the moment. And then we can proceed from there and experience our life like we live it, which is possibly beautiful.
Waking up from pain, it's not just physical pain, too, that can wake us up. In time, we can learn to sense the intense feeling of contraction from psychological pain. When we feel self-consciousness, when we feel shame, when we feel fear, when we feel anxiety, when we feel sadness even, although perhaps less so sadness, or perhaps I just haven't experienced it so much with that one in particular, but these moments of psychological pains and the intensity that they can bring upon us. Like sometimes it feels like the whole world is squeezing in on us. And even that can become a stimulus to wake up, snap out of it. And almost like we're in a dream where we're in prison and we're trying to shake ourselves out of the bars. And in a moment of such strain and such contraction and a little bit of awareness and recognition, we can just, oh, this is it. It's here. Everything is right here. Life is right here. This is already fully arrived. And this ties in with the first thing that the Johannes quote that I wanted to bring up, which is, I would say, as much a mantra as it is a quote, but one of the best things you taught me is the philosophy or mantra of wei wu wei, and this Chinese phrase, this doing, not doing. And at first, when you told me about this, it didn't make any sense to me. And this was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago now. And before I'd read much Eastern philosophy. And wei wu wei, doing, not doing, that makes no sense. How would that apply to anything? How would that help anything? How could you even do not doing? It's a contradiction right in the phrase. But in fact, this is an extremely practical inner posture toward our life in motion. Doing, not doing is not necessarily idleness. It's not necessarily a ceasing of the dynamism of our inner system or of our interactions and flows with the outer world. This is something actually that we can fully experience, fully tap into when we are in full motion, full dynamism, full change, full energy. But it's subtle and internal. How do you feel wei wu wei? How would you explain wei wu wei to somebody who has not thought about it or experienced it before?
It is this inner posture of actively suppressing your need to act upon a thing which doesn't need your action, because maybe you're not involved in this fight of two people, and you maybe would make it worse because they would get interrupted and then they would have an extra fierce reaction towards each other. So it is the sensibility towards the consequences of the consequences, to higher order consequences, which you maybe not know what will happen, and therefore have this respect for complex situations of a high level of complexity. Obviously, for easy situations, oh, a child fell down, it hurt his knee. Now you go and say, now the pain went away, and then the child will feel, okay, now it's okay again. This is not so complex. And then you can act upon your impulse to help a little. But if it's like a big complex event and maybe an accident happened and you are not capable of helping anything, and then you're just a bystander who watches, the wei wu wei would not be just to stand there and look, but to go along and not stand in the way of the first responders, of the people who know how to help, and maybe blocking the pathway of like a ambulance approaching or whatever. So it is not engaging in anything which is too complex and it's too complex for you to be able to act upon it. Or maybe it is also not following your first impulse on defending yourself or your ego. When someone hits you with a phrase and you interpret it in the first moment with, oh, that went hard against my sense of self and I don't feel that way, so now I have to defend myself. But what if you just like widen the space between stimulus their stimulus and your reaction. It is actually gifting you possibilities in interacting with the world in a way which is more aligned with your values, so you don't overreact and make it worse. And in effect, this philosophy will save you a lot of broken relationships, a lot of broken trust, because you won't overreact in very sensible times. You will take a step back, and then you will feel and rethink, but according to what is aligned with your values. So it is the possibilities, it is the enhancement of possibilities to react through widening the space between the stimulus and your response. So it is actually a powerful move not to act sometimes or do it consciously. It is not just doing nothing. It is the active suppression of you overreacting to not destroy something.
And the baseline of Wei Wu Wei is this, where we started, is this making peace with the now. Even if it's not what we chose, it is a willingness to open ourselves to reality. It is a willingness to look at reality. And if we can do that, then we aren't compelled to react against reality, regardless of the consequences, knowing that a lot of times we can have good intentions to try to stop something bad, and we might be focusing on something that we don't want, and in doing so, in that reactivity, by not pausing, gathering, and discerning what is the wisest way to approach the situation we are in, many times we dig ourselves in deeper. We make it worse. We create new problems. We create secondary problems. We weave ourselves into this web of entrapment and reactivity that is reinforced on the outside in our relationships and how people expect us to react, in the systems and the organizations that we might build, as well as on the inside. And this spider web kind of emanates from within and ensnares from without if we get ourselves caught up in cycles of reactivity rather than responding from a place of, okay, observe, accept, make peace with reality, and then allow ourselves to be led. And so there's a difference in posture between saying, I know what's right for the world, I'm in charge, I'm going to control things, and I'm going to decide what is the best future that I want, and it's really best because I've decided so, and then I'm going to make sure and try to control everyone and everything to make it happen, and I'm going to react and force against and fight against things that come up and blah, blah, blah. This posture of fighting and aversion and control, fundamentally, is not as effective in the long run, even though it requires us to surrender a bit of our reactivity, a bit of our sense of control over things, which of course is illusory or fleeting or fragile to begin with. Thinking of fragility and our aversion to fragility, you mentioned before the call this newfound curiosity of the philosophy of only the paranoid survive. And we find ourselves now in this crazy fragile situation where technology is evolving before our eyes in an unbelievable way, in a way that I would have been incredulous about 5 years ago if you would have told me that this would be where we would be today, and especially in the intelligence revolution. But frankly, the demos of robotics are equally bewildering. They're just much harder to, or they'll take a few extra years to scale up. And so the world is changing before our eyes. We cannot control the future. And the future is very likely going to have overwhelming, overpowering forces in many directions that can imperil many aspects of existence or enable many ways of being for the first time. And so this only the paranoid survive, what does it look like sitting at a point like this in history, where we cannot predict the future? We certainly cannot control the future. We cannot even know the future. And yet it changes before our eyes in ways that will absolutely involve us deeply and everybody that we know. What is a wise way to navigate when we find ourselves in this moment in time? What does it feel like or look like to have an effective way of being in the face of this insane, swirling wave storm of different forces in various directions? What is the philosophy of somebody navigating changing time?
Oh, what a great question. Thank you. And in my opinion, it is building up the capability to adapt. It
Yes.
is, if you are an organizational leader, then invest heavily in building your capability to adapt, to respond to a chaotic time like this. And definitely this change in technology, this advancement of artificial intelligence will cause a wave swapping over into every industry. Every industry will experiencing adaptations and possibilities, but also challenges along the way caused by this new wave of technology. So the more important, the more your business is in its foundation doing business a very old-fashioned way, there will be new competitors who will use the new tools to create value even faster, even more scaled. And now you can choose to like invest heavily in your capabilities, like build up a strategy for using AI, and then teach your leaders what to expect, what is possible with it, and also what is not possible with it. Like build up infrastructure, which means to secure your knowledge, to keep your people who are really great and who build your company as well, and even hire new roles which can implement new infrastructure. And also, the more chaotic the world is in which you operate, the more important it is that you build up agile teams. What does it mean? People who can respond to the unordinary as well as do the ordinary in a great way. Like firefighters. Think of firefighters. They can get a kitten off of a tree, like the very ordinary thing, but they also can navigate like a crumbling high-rise building and do the best. And they just divide and conquer through the situations with simple principles, and they have very tough minds to begin with, and they are a very integrated team with a strong set of values. And if you build teams like that, you will for sure have an advantage to people who have very strong programmers or engineers, but very strong engineers who are stuck in their old ways and will not change fast. So the most important thing is to build up the capability to adapt to new circumstances, to a new environment, and from there on create the value you can create and bring the value to society only you can create, be the organ you are made for and you evolved for. And Peyton, what do you think about that framing? What would you add to that?
Yeah, adaptability is the word. Like, if things are going to change, you want to be anti-fragile, not fragile. You want to be in a position where you benefit from disruption, because one of the very few things we can be quite confident in terms of predictions about the future is disruption. It is changing. It is changing at an accelerated rate. And so tomorrow will not be like today. Next year will not be like last year. 5 years from now will absolutely not be like 5 years before now. And the adaptability is key. We want to be in a position where even we want to acknowledge that we cannot forecast exactly how all these forces are going to play out. There's all these contradicting forces. Many things are undetermined in terms of how the world unfolds, and they're undetermined in a way that almost all of us are observing as more spectators of the broader world and the broader technological forces than we are agents, despite having agency over our own lives and what we do within them. The playing field in the arena is changing extremely fast, and we cannot rely on having accurate predictions of what 2028 is going to look like, because it's really out of the question to accurately predict all of these forces. What are governments going to decide? What are the companies going to decide? Will there be geopolitical disruption? Will there be new step forward advancements in algorithms? Will there be massive deployment and ramp up of robotics, or will they encounter some infrastructure problems that slow them down? All of these things are going to massively affect what it is like to look around and operate in the world. All of these things are outside of any individual's control, or at least almost any individual's control. And yet these things are going to be massively impactful. And so what do? We want to put ourselves in a position where we will be adaptable, where we will be anti-fragile. And the The things we can do about that, in my opinion, come down to the cultivation of meta skills. It's this acknowledgement that I don't know if the skills I have today are going to be what I need in 3 years. And I can even admit that I'm not necessarily in a position to see what skills will be necessary for me to wield in 3 years for me to be effective at what I need to be effective at. And so I really have a strong interest in leveling up my ability to level up skills dynamically and in response to what I see. And so the easiest example to understand is learning. If you are better at learning and you can learn things faster and more effectively, and you understand how you learn, how you retain information, how you embody it, how you deploy it, and you're practiced at picking up this skill over here, this type of skill over here, this type of skill over here, you've witnessed your capacity to learn and what works, how long it takes, when you should do it, how you should do it to fit your own mind. Then if you need to pick up a skill that is super relevant in 3 years, you will have a much greater capacity to adapt to what comes. The same applies to habit manipulation, because this is upstream of learning and the other meta skills. The same applies to energy management, because if you're able to have good energy, if you're able to manage your energy, then you will be able to do more learning and more doing and more applying and more adapting. And the one that I always tout as the king of them all is awareness. If we are aware, then we will be able to see. If we are able to see and we are aware of what we see, and we are not constrained by our prior channels of thought and our prior conceptions and prior mental map of the world too rigidly, then we might be able to wake up and witness the ways that we are not going down the right path that will serve us, or if there's another path that is better for us, or if there's some risk that we should all of a sudden become aware of and react to and defend ourselves against, or if there's some thing that we should pursue. This is the thing that prevents us from blinding ourselves to what's right in front of us. And this is also the thing that prevents us from getting in our own way, from getting too caught in reactiveness to practice way, way, way. What leads us to, without it, harm our situation by doing things that are actually counterproductive when all the secondary effects are considered. So these meta skills, this is how you can, these are the things that you can be confident that today, if I improve these things, then in the future, I'll be really glad that I did that, because I'll be able to learn something faster if I need a new skill. I'll be able to see clearer if I need to respond to something. I'll be able to manifest more effect in the world because I will have more energy to do it with, etc. And then talking more speculatively over this future that we already admit we have no idea what is going to happen. We already admitted that there's all these forces that could play out in totally different ways. I'm curious to hear any high-level thoughts you have about, yes, we did admit that we don't know and nobody knows, but what do you think? What does it look like in 5 years? What would you predict about the future of our species based off of what you see in technology, based off of what you see going on in the world, the trends that you see, or the effects that you see of different forces that might be introduced into the arena? What is the world going to do in the next 5 years, do you think?
That's a wide-ranging question, but it's a very interesting one.
Yes, it is.
So at the top of mind, we see the wave of AI coming. So definitely will have a lot to do with the new capabilities of technology in our everyday lives. It will be embedded in everywhere, basically. You can wear it around, and it doesn't even need to have connection to the internet. You can have like a private tutor in your pocket. You can give it to your children, and you can fine tune it in a way which suits your value system and which is safe, to have a companion which supports your child in its mental development. And this is a vision also, like brain aligned development for children, because every child is different, every child is unique, and therefore it is more and more possible, and I would demand it for education system to be more and more focused on developing each child's uniqueness. Because with intelligence, which is everywhere, you don't need to be good in everything, but you need to be good at being you. And this is what our species will be demanded of from the changes in technology as well. Also, the value of people who can do stuff with their hands will rise. Despite the robotic revolution and the more and more capable robots, not everybody will have a robot. Not everything can be done by a robot now. Maybe in the future, we all seen Star Wars or Star Trek, where this is invasive everywhere. But to do stuff with your hands, to do the stuff that only human can do, like having human experiences and awareness counts a lot of that. You only know how it feels like being you. You only know how it feels like being together with the people you love. And these experiences will gain much more value. So it is the more important to cultivate these relationships you value so much. But yeah, learning will become also easier because the technology will be able to predict what you are good at and which kind of channels you learn best in. And therefore you can have like an autodidactism, which is unprecedented. And that's what I look forward to. But also the geopolitics is shifting. But I don't want to talk about that because there are other people talking about that, like Ray Dalio, and you can look it up, what he thinks. It definitely makes sense to view it as a big machine which has big cycles. And there is a cycle of a high load of debt within the world and Europe and America. And definitely it has to be repaid in a way where people in the coming years need to maybe put their belt a little bit closer and don't consume too much, but create much more. So AI will be everywhere, but the AI will also be much, much better. The capabilities of everyone will be enhanced through the services and technologies that will develop until then. And the human experiences will be valued much more. And doing stuff with your hands and gardening will become more popular, in my opinion. I would love to see
This is a good one.
What do you think, Peyton? How does the world look like in maybe 5 years? Let's see how well that will age.
I mean, I think of everything, I feel the most confident about gardening getting more popular now that I think about it. This is a very good call. How technology will change in the next 5 years is a crazy question that I don't know the answer to. What I do feel confident in is that there's immense incentive to continue ramping up artificial intelligence capabilities. I think one of the most important conceptual things for us to see right now, it relates to scaling laws. Because this, I think, it has a very small relative effect on today and how the real world physically looks. But I think it will have a really big effect on how the world looks in 10 years and in 5 years and in 3 years, to be honest, but especially in 5 and 10 years. And this is this idea that we've gone in several generations of these artificial intelligence models. What they found is that every time you increase an order of magnitude that you invest in the training, measured in computations generally, but you can look at the data, you can look at the hardware, et cetera, in energy. Every time you scale that up in order of magnitude, the capabilities of the model, although it's not black and white how you measure capabilities or how you quantify it and distill it into one number, but generally speaking, the capabilities double every time you go up in order of magnitude of what you invest in the training. And so we've done this and we've increased maybe 4 to 5 orders of magnitude in what we've invested in training the frontier models over the last, say, 3 to 5 years. And we've seen this pattern fairly predictably play out. And of course, there's a few algorithmic breakthroughs along the way, mixture of experts being one that was very eye-catching earlier in this year. But even those algorithmic breakthroughs then get scooped up by the big dogs and scaled up even more. And mixture of experts was a great example of how, yes, that enabled DeepSeek to catch up. And then that idea was swooped up by all the much larger scale compute players, and it gave them an even further lead. And so the scaling laws, this is really important. This tells you that very likely we will have a massive infrastructure proliferation that is meant to fuel this great race to superintelligence that maybe a handful of large and powerful entities in the world are running. And that if one or 1 to 3 entities are able to obtain a strategic advantage or a decisive advantage in this race, their incentives are going to be actually to continue adding orders of magnitude on this and to use their advantage to try to amass the resources and in political power to increase by another order of magnitude to pull away even further. And that this intelligence will have very likely breakthrough efficacy in terms of even amassing more power as the artificial intelligence organization, which it is, in my opinion, from a game theory perspective, likely to be more and more to just increase the power of the frontier models that are no longer released into the wild right away, is my guess. But this infrastructure proliferation is huge. This will take the form of giant data centers and huge, massive $10 billion investments in data centers, followed by $100 billion investments in data centers. And very likely, eventually, we will see $1 trillion data center being built, with going from us with investing 100 megawatts to a gigawatt to there will be 10 gigawatt facilities of power that are built for this. Entire nuclear plants will be built to power data centers, or they may even cluster in places where abundant forms of renewable energy are available and optimizing for energy availability and where they place these things. And after superintelligence, importantly, this is likely to continue, this infrastructure proliferation, all driven by this principle of the scaling laws of these AIs. Another thing that I think will be very likely powerful as a force is the robotics revolution, which is, it lags behind because it's obviously far more physical, but the actual units right now they are like, if you had 1 million of those, it would be a crazy wave already. If you had 100 million, it would be an unbelievable wave throughout the economy just with today's technology. The technology is already there. The scaling up and mass production of these things is the next phase. And so I expect that to be a massive force that really doesn't, it will lag AI significantly because of the hardware bottleneck, but nonetheless, this will be a dramatic force of the future. And then, of course, we'll have driverless vehicles, and we already have them, but once again, we are in scale-up phase of many of these things. All this to say, the world is being transformed by technology. Everything in the world is being transformed by technology. We are in a singularity right now of technology accelerating, self-accelerating, steepening its own curve, going up and up and up, and transforming the world in front of us. The alignment of these AI models is actually a crucial survival threshold for our species. There is an existential one-time doorway that we are about to pass through, and we will do it either well or we won't do it well, largely dependent on what these models want. Are we able to instill thick values in artificial intelligence models and actually align them with the safety and well-being of our species, which is something that is technically, potentially very difficult, potentially a black box that we might convince ourselves we've solved when we haven't really. And it's a crazy thing to consider being in the presence of a truly super intelligent being. And when you truly game theory it out, when you truly war game this in your head, or with sophisticated individuals that have really thought deeply about this, you can see that overwhelming superintelligence is superintelligent power. This is persuasion, strategy, resource, amounting resources, and political power, and all of these other things that you would want if you want to have a super intelligent entity all in one, or a super powerful entity all in one. And so getting that right, making sure that these models are actually aligned and that they cannot be co-opted by a techno dictator of some sort looking for their opportunity is actually quite important to the future of our species. And pivoting off of this to the thick desires that we want these models to have, and taking it away from something that's largely outside of our sphere of influence into something within our sphere of influence. What would you say as you look at your life zoomed out? You look at the last 5 years, you look at the next 5 years. What are your thick desires? What are your deepest intentions for your path and what you want to manifest, what you want to see within yourself and what you want to see in your environment that are guiding you as your highest intention for this era of your life?
That's a great question. The thickest desire is my intention and my desire to connect with nature, to really be close to the living world, to be close to plants, to be close to a forest, to a lake, to the mountains. So this is the thickest desire, to connect with the inner freedom I experience when connecting with nature. and connecting with people, connecting with nature. Therefore, another desire is to build systems which help me gain freedom, and not only help me, but also bring value to society. Produce perspectives which produce an advantage to people who book my services, who buy my systems or whatever. And so it is actually to produce value and to get value back so that I can gain freedom to love, to make it short. This is a deep desire of mine. Connect and to be free. What is yours, Peyton?
You stole mine. I would put it. I was thinking about this. I would put it in the opposite order, but it's pretty much exactly the same. Like my thickest desire right now, and I do view this as the top priority for this era of my life, is to obtain thick freedom, enduring freedom, freedom that is not necessarily for keeps in the sense of hard control and everything is within my control and I have a firm, tight grasp on it, but freedom in the sense of sustainable freedom, renewable freedom, freedom from a genuine source that is on solid ground and not fragile, anti-fragile freedom, so to speak. And for me, this is external for sure, and a lot of how I actually spend my energy and my hours in my weeks has to do with this ultimate overarching thick desire of external freedom that has actually guided many of my decisions and pathways over the last 7 or 8 years since I became an entrepreneur. And equally, or perhaps I would say definitely ultimately more important, although temporally perhaps something with a longer time horizon, is this internal freedom. And so the external freedom is something where there is this very obtainable, very real black and white quantifiable resources that I look to acquire, as well as attributes of my life, etc., lack of constraints, obligations, etc. And this is something that I really do hope and intend and plan to obtain in the full way that I want it for me and my family within the next 5 years. And while doing so, in mutual support, as mutually supportive projects, cultivating this internal freedom, which will very much not be finished within the next 5 years. Internal freedom is far less concrete than that and far more elusive than that as far as some permanent attribute, but yet delightfully, it is something that we can experience completely in its totality, in entirety, in fullness. But for perhaps brief moments or fleeting moments, or in ways that we forget to even touch along the way. And so this dual side, inner and outer freedom, this is my thickest desire. And my second thickest desire is this connection that you speak about. I really, in 5 years, I would really love to lay the foundation of a family. And this is something that I, for a very long time, have felt deeply called to, despite the fact that I absolutely cannot predict the future. I absolutely cannot control the future, despite the fact that so much is going on that can be unsettling or fearful or exciting or enchanting, whatever. This changing, unpredictable, unknowable future. That a thick desire that I feel in almost any case is to have a family and to raise them in connection with nature, to raise them in love, with connection for each other, for their flourishing and well-being and genuine happiness and freedom of their own, and in a way that is deeply aligned with my own nature as well as their nature. We are these, honestly, Homo sapiens. We are evolved to be hunter-gatherers, to be exploring, to be checking things out, to follow our curiosity, to adventure, to move our bodies, to feel, to experience, to see, to smell, to hear. And this is what I want the majority of my life to be constituted of, to feel like, to look like, as well as hopefully, but not necessarily, but hopefully, a lot of adventures as well, going far and wide from my own slice of nature and returning to this little Eden that I would love to build for my family one day. And these are my thickest desires.
What a beautiful vision, man. I couldn't connect more to this vision as well. So I will probably take some of the elements you talked about as well and implement them as well.
You're welcome. This is an open source vision, my friend.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful, man. Well, on that note, I just want to express gratitude. Thank you for
Mhm.
this 100th episode and for all of the things that you've taught me along the way. This has been on the podcast, of course. I've learned a lot and really enjoyed this thing that started out as a curiosity and experiment of ours and has kind of sustained and grown and been this thing that has been really beneficial for me psychologically and intellectually along the way. And so I just want to express gratitude for you, my friend, all that you have taught me, all that these experiences have been. And I'm really looking forward to the next one, hundo.
Thank you very much, my friend. I couldn't agree more. I'm looking forward to the next 100 episodes with you, my friend. It's like, it's been a pleasure always and intellectually stimulating, psychologically, and I learned so much as well. And having an accountability partner like you is so valuable, you know. I'm so grateful for our connection that we could sustain it for so long with the help of technology. So we should look into the future with an optimistic mindset and use everything which evolves anew to the advantage to stay in contact, to connect again, to be accountability partners, to share what we learned and to learn from each other. And I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much. I cannot be more grateful for anything else. Like a weekly call that gives you energy is a very good sign to predict that the next 100 episodes will likely happen.
Agreed. And all mutual, my friend. And I love the note of techno optimism too. This was something that I meant to bring up, but I'm actually quite inspired by Vitalik Buterin's philosophy around this. Is like the future can go in very many ways. And I have mentioned many times that our attempts to control the entire world are futile, but the possibilities unleashed within our lives and for ourselves to play our small part of the universe are abundant, increasing every day, and we can choose what we build. We can choose what we develop. We can choose to create awesome stuff that enables defense in comparison to offense, that enables people to increase their freedom, sovereignty, connection, well-being, learning, happiness, creativity, and possibilities, as well as, of course, connection in alignment with our true nature, our deepest self, our awareness and the light within. And so this is absolutely on the menu for us. And this is something to absolutely keep in our minds as we look at this overwhelming sea and swarm of possibilities of the future, is that there is a way for us to put our creative spirit and our light toward whatever we find ourselves. There is this way for us to connect and embrace fully the reality that we find, including all of its momentums that recede very quickly outside of our field of vision of what we can predict and what we can foresee, and certainly of what we can control. So this optimism, this is a good refined intention for the week ahead for me. I've been thinking about the future a lot and coming back to this optimism, looking within my sphere of influence and truly having the faith to believe that regardless of what's within or outside my control, that I unequivocally, unconditionally trust the universe to unfold whatever is meant to be. So appreciate that reminder, my friend.
There's never been a better time to be alive, to shape out and carve out your own uniqueness and to contribute in a way which is uniquely you. It's never been a better time. And therefore, I also believe it's a great place for children to grow up this world. Despite everything which goes wrong, we should look into the future with an optimistic mindset. Because if we do, we will find the possibilities and then make use of them. And if we don't, then it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy of negativity. So we should better make sure to tune our mindset.
Great reminder, my friend. Thank you as always. I will see you on the next one.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.